Yeah, Jeremy's getting ready for a podcast, everybody. Jeremy's getting ready for a podcast. Jeremy, I want to start off this podcast with this, but you know what? I'm going to save that for Sports Extra. The question I really want to ask you, I'm going to save for Sports Extra.
Okay.
So let's start off with this then. At this point in the season, which fan base should be most concerned? Astro fan, Cardinal fan, Yankee fan?
Well, it's not the Astros. The Astros played 500 baseball like we said they had to play. They got some underperforming players right now. Jeremy Payne is in the sophomore year. We talked about that. So you take the freshman year, take the sophomore year, you see what you got at the end of that. Bregman's not playing real well. He will. He's still Alex Bregman. And they've had some injuries on the mound, and they're still above 500. So, they're barely above 500. So I feel like they're in a position where they had to play 500 baseball and then 550, and they're trending that way. It's going to be a grind. It's not going to be easy, but that's why you go get veterans starting pitching. Moving to the Yankees and the Cardinals. I'm going to say the Cardinals, and I'm going to say Cardinals because I like to look beyond just the immediate. And I'm not sure that they have the leadership in that clubhouse that understands the flow of the city and what the Cardinals are supposed to be. They lost something when they lost Yadier Molina. Okay. Paul Goldschmidt's exceptional. Arenado's exceptional. Man, something about that's not clicking. When you send players down to AAA to work on their launch angle, that tells me your organization is not thinking properly. Let's have the kid make consistent contact and work on his body in the swing a little bit instead of his eyes in a different spot instead of working on the launch angle. That's the wrong thing. Launch angle is an effect. It's a result. Everybody has a launch angle. So the point is, I think the Cardinals are thinking a certain direction, and after no more Albert Pujols and no more Yadi Molina, more to the point. Even with Adam Wainwright and some of the other guys they have, they're still very good players. This is concerning for the overall future of the organization.
It's funny that the Cardinals fired a guy a couple of years ago, right? That knew the Cardinal way and lived and breathed, and that was his life, and it wasn't enough. And now you look at what you're talking about. I wonder if the two go hand in hand. Just a thought.
It's entirely possible. Organizations have gotten away from what makes them great in many ways, and in search of I'll just say it. Some of the stuff these guys are teaching out of the Northwest, and that's permeated these other organizations. Man, it's ruined relationships. It's ruined fan bases. It's ruined direction. It's ruined players. The stuff that happened in Philadelphia with Jason Ochart and his oversight of the hitters when they got away from him. What happened? Wait a minute, how's that go? Got to a World Series. I don't know. There might be some different ways to go about things that aren't that. And unfortunately, the Cardinals are bought in. Anytime you talk about, I got to work on my launching.
Ochart has another job, though.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into that either because
I don't know the guy. I just
baffled.
know that he's found a new home with the Boston Red Sox.
I'm baffled at that. I was like, I was speechless. Like, Jason, what? We didn't learn the first time, So, all right. Anyway, go ahead.
Says he was well liked. This article well liked within the among the Phillies organization. So
yeah, being well liked and being a good hitting guy are two entirely different things. There's a lot of people out there that are well liked that shouldn't be coaching in Major League Baseball.
I'm actually thinking Yankee fan has a lot to be concerned with, only because of the division you're in. And yes, right now the entire division is playing above 500 baseball, and that is extremely rare to have a division with every team above 500. You have obviously the Rays, the best team in baseball, setting the standard. The Orioles, then you've got the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. I don't know if the Red Sox are as good as the Yankees, but right now New York is 8 games back. They're 8 games back. I don't know. I mean, again, I hate to say it's early, but it's early. But I think that the Yankees have a little bit to be concerned about. And I think of those three, I think the Cardinals, considering the division they're in, the Pirates, the Brewers, the Cubs, and the Reds, I think if the Cardinals get hot, they can catch those teams. I don't know if the Yankees can catch the Rays. And Toronto is really good, in my opinion. certainly a team that's on the rise. So I think Yankee fan has a lot to be concerned about, more than those other ones.
Well, for the immediate, I would agree with you. I think the direction of the organization in St. Louis is a question. I think the immediate, we talked about this a little bit separately. Cashman has some people he's not. We talked about last show. Cashman's not. He's got some people he needs to change who he's listening to. The guy's got a lot of skins on the wall and a long time in the GM chair. He just got to change who he's listening to. And when it comes to even Carlos Marmol in St. Louis and Aaron Boone in New York, they're just dealing the hand they're dealt with the organizational philosophy. That's what's going on there. But the Yankees are in a tough spot. My guy Grayson Rodriguez is dealing. The Orioles are playing well. You've got and that's been teetering last 2 years. It's been coming a little bit for them to get better. You've got the Rays are the Rays. You've got it's the East is a bloodbath. It's a tough division. There's no teams like the Oakland A's, for example, in that division right now who there's no Oakland A's in the AL East, right? So, when it's and I'm really not trying to be mean, but they're not very good. Can we say that? Is that the understatement of the year? The A's are not very good. Is that fair?
I agree.
Okay.
I mean, right now they are 8-30 as of this taping. A 2-11. They're already 15 games out.
Bro, if they get under the Mendoza line, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Like, that's tough. Anyway, it's early. It's not that early though. It's turning the second week of May here. That's where we're at. Pretty soon it's going to be the first week of June, and we're not going to be talking about early anymore. So, they got to continue to find ways to get healthy and play better. For this year, I agree with you. I think the Cardinals have some longer term concerns because the Yankees can switch gears and buy themselves out of this.
True.
The Cardinals can't do that.
Maybe I should have put the Phillies in there too at 18-19.
I think they were a team
back. How about the Mets? They're 18-19 as well, 7.5 back. The injury issues they've.
And Verlander and Scherzer. The Phillies, though, to go back to that for 2 seconds, the Phillies did this last year. And they figured it out and gelled, and then they, so we don't know yet. This is how they do it. Astros are like this too. They figure it out as the year goes on. When I was a kid, the Oakland A's, who was my team of choice back then, used to be really, really good for a stretch in the year and get to first place or second place, right about enough to just get there to be in contention. Back when everybody didn't make the playoffs, right? And then they would turn around and they would have a fading month in August. It was like a week in August, so 2 weeks they were just bad, and they fell out of contention every year. And they break your heart with it. And so sometimes they go the other way. I think the Astros and Phillies are like that.
Speaking of the A's, that being your team, both of us are too young to remember Vida Blue during his heyday. Did you ever meet Vida Blue? Did you ever have any interactions with him? Vida Blue, of course, passing away this past week.
Once as a young kid, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be around all these guys for a little bit. Never to the point where I could, stop him on the street or say, hey, remember, just, kind of like walking up to Ernie Banks when you're in the ballpark and you get introduced to Ernie Banks. I mean, Vida was just a legend in Oakland and, obviously transcended Oakland as far as baseball history is concerned. More importantly, I think he was an ambassador for the city than he was just for the game. He really dug into the people he was around and tried to impact them. And the people that'll miss Vida Blue go far beyond baseball.
Another person we will all miss, someone who's actually near and dear to my heart, Grover Deacon Jones of Sugar Land, former Astros hitting coach, former Major League player, coach, and scout. Also worked with the Padres, was an Astros hitting coach in the late 70s, early 80s, and really the man who helped bring baseball to Sugar Land. He was one of the driving forces to bring baseball to Sugar Land, professional baseball, in the form of the Skeeters, which obviously were in the Atlantic League, and then the Astros come along, buy them, and then put them in AAA. Did I ever tell you how I met Deacon Jones?
You did not.
Deacon Jones is really one of the most fascinating people in baseball. He is one of these guys that really knows everybody. And when I interviewed for the job here at KHOU in 2016, I come down for the interview. I go back. My wife says to me, listen, I'm all for moving, but can we at least go see the place? And I was like, okay. So we quickly booked flights for me, my wife, my son to Houston. So we come down And I noticed that the Skeeters are playing one of the teams from the Atlantic League that I cover in Pennsylvania. I touch base with one of the broadcasters. I get tickets. So I'm sitting in the players, family, friends section. And this guy comes over with a bat, using it as a cane. And he's looking at me. And he's looking at me. And then he's talking to some other people. And then he comes over and he's looking at me. And he's like, with his big booming voice, "Who are you? Who are you?" And I'm like, "Who are you? Who are you?" For the next hour, he proceeded to take us all around the ballpark, introduce me to people, get us ice cream, show us everything that Sugarland has to offer in the Houston area, tell us about it. And he was like the first person I really met. And called him when I got the job, came down here, saw him at the Skeeters games. And one time I'm at Constellation Field. I think I was there for another story. And I look on the wall and there's this black and white photo and it's of two black men. And then I read it and Deacon Jones is a minor league manager in the Midwest League for the White Sox. He played for the White Sox, was a really good prospect until he hurt his shoulder sliding into a base and really was never the same. Barely could throw the ball, but he could hit. Hit over 400 one year in the minor leagues. I can go on and on and on. But anyways, so I'm looking at this picture and it's Deacon Jones. I think it was 1974. And it's basically a picture of the first meeting between two black managers in organized minor league baseball. And I'm like, whoa. I believe the other gentleman's name was Bernie Smith. So I talked to Deacon about it. We did a story and I put the clip up on Twitter and I can insert it here later, but you know, Deacon is showing me the picture and I my line was, you know, this guy may be a Bush League manager because he kept on telling me, "Jason, I wasn't a very good manager. We lost 8 in a row."
By the way, I wasn't a very good manager. I lost some 8 in a row.
Grover Deacon Jones now has the fancy title of Special Assistant to the Skeeters team president. And while he recalls being a Bush League manager, he is an all-star at commanding a room.
You're looking at the picture. You know what I'm looking at?
What?
The background.
I know.
Nobody's there. That's when we lost 8 in a row.
With that big booming voice. And he goes, we're looking at the picture and he's like, "You know what I see? There's nobody in the crowd because we lost 8 in a row." And he just talked about everything in his life, the fight for equality and the civil rights movement. And what really stuck to me and still sticks to me this day, and it's in the story, he goes, "I lived the civil rights movement." Now, I did this story back in 2019, I believe. And he goes, "The thing about the civil rights movement is I lived it." And he goes, "And it's coming back around." And that really troubled him, that yes, there had been progress to be made, or had been made, but again, it's just this familiar theme that we continue this never-ending pattern, I guess, of 2 steps forward and maybe 3 steps back, or however you want to do it. But so many people, Deacon Jones on his birthday, I used to call him on his birthday. One time he said, "Jason, I got too many people calling me on my birthday. I got people from Norway, Japan, blah, 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 blah." So I basically had an agreement with him that I would call him the day after on his birthday and wish him happy birthday, because he's like, I can't, he loved it. Don't get me wrong. But he's like, there's too many people calling me. But all of us, anyone who knew Deacon Jones, yeah, much better for it. And I thank my lucky stars that I ran into him and was able to hear his stories. And Jeremy, you know me, I kept all of our interviews. So I have all of the interviews that I've ever done with him, and they're still sitting on my hard drive. But we believe that there's going to be a remembrance for him next week in Sugarland. So I just wanted to make sure to say something about Deacon Jones. Have you ever met him? Did you ever meet him?
Yeah, Deacon definitely had an effect on everybody that he met. I met Deacon Jones, when we started P15, and Bob Watson, as you remember at the time, who was, before he got sick, with his kidney stuff. Bob taught me a lot about being an executive. People don't realize that. He's not in the book, this first one. He is in the one about the life story. This isn't about being a scout. This is about being an exec. And sometimes the relationships that you make, happen away from the game, but they're still part of the game. And that was Deacon Jones as well, right? Bob, when we needed to have a place for our signature event, first one ever, the one with Grayson Rodriguez and Noah Naylor and all those guys in it, we hadn't have a place to put it, and we wanted to be in Houston, and we put it in Sugarland. And the reason why it was in Sugarland, as you remember, because that's when we started doing our stuff together, was then, and then you came out to the event, right? And then I did some postseason TV, and then the way we go, you created the monster, was Deacon Jones. And Deacon sat in the room with me, and the GM was Jay Miller, I think, at the time. And there was another guy there who was a good dude. And they initially had told us no. And Bob called Deacon, and Deacon said, "Yeah, we'd love to have this event here." And so the next, the plan was to go back to Sugarland. The next year, the guy, not Deacon, the other guy, gave us a little bit of a runaround, so we ended up out in Camelback Ranch. We didn't go back to Sugarland, but Deacon was why. He sat in the room and said, "We want to have this event here." He said, "I want to do good things for the game, and Bob believes in you, and you're doing good stuff, and I want to keep that going." And so he was there. He supported it. He opened the door for P15 to be successful, even though he didn't know it. He definitely had the effect on you of wanting to make it better for people. I would be wrong if I didn't say that some of the leadership, some of the things that both he and Bob, and him in such a short window, Bob in a little bit longer, conveyed on me had to do with being black and being a leader at the same time. I don't like talking about that much because nobody wants to be seen, if you're a person of color or a minority, as somebody who's a leader because of that, or that's all they see. But I will tell you, and I'll probably say the only time I'll say this publicly, it is not the same when you're on this side of it as a leader as if you're not, you don't look like me. That's a fact. Okay. So those guys, looked at it forward as I had to be successful, and they were going to arm me with the ability to do it. And Deacon was definitely a part of that. Those stories he told, some nuggets he brought up, nothing so much to do with baseball, everything to do with what the game meant, how to pay it forward, how to, ideas he had about what that would look like. The stories of his experiences, not so much, again, the nuts and bolts of we got to play the game this way. And then some concern for people that look like me being left out of the game, and I think that, it was a very short window that I knew him, but he impacted me in a way. I remember walking in that meeting going, "That was amazing." You know what I mean? That's how he is. So
Yeah,
I share I share I didn't have your relationship with him, you did, but I share the condolences and the sense of greater loss for baseball, for humanity as a whole.
I talked to him probably once a month. I would call him and he's like, "Oh, checking in to see if I'm still alive." And I was like, "Yep, Deke." And he called a number of us. I don't know how many, but I know I was one of them. And basically and I probably would say this was around the beginning of the year, end of last year, I think. And basically he told me what he wanted. And what I mean by that, what he wanted when he passed. I think he knew that his health was declining and he knew what he wanted. He goes, "For my memorial service, I want it to be like a baseball game. No shirts and ties, people dress in jerseys and caps." He laid it all out there, and he goes, "Make sure I'm telling all of you so you know exactly what I want." And I joked with him. I said, "Yeah." I said, "I can imagine reporting live outside the memorial service, Deke, and hey, Len and me, I'm outside this memorial service. I'm wearing a shirt and tie, and Deke said I couldn't come in. So back to you." But yeah, every Yeah, he would just call me out of the blue, and I would call him out of the blue, but he yeah, it I'm just glad that we were able to share that time with him. All right, let's move on. We're running out of time, so we've got some positive feedback on this new segment, which is called Pump the Brakes. There it is. You don't like Pump the Brakes?
No, I do. I'm curious to have positive feedback because it's a great one. I had a good time with it myself.
Well, should I really reveal who the positive?
No, it's good.
No.
We're good.
All right. The first item of business for this segment: the Baltimore Orioles will be contenders in the American League East. Are you driving straight through, or are you pumping the brakes, Jeremy?
As much as it hurts to say this, I'm going to ride that one a little bit. I think they got a chance.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think they have a chance. I'm actually very happy for Mike for doing it the right way out there. I've given Mike a lot of hard time for some of the selections he made as a scout director. I think that's borne out. I think I've been more right than not when it comes to that stuff. But I think Mike's done a good job as an executive overall, and so good for him and good for the Orioles and Mike knowing how to add to some stuff and capitalize in the right way and get them going in the right direction. So I'm going to say yeah.
Yeah, Baltimore is such a great baseball city, so I think it's great for baseball when Baltimore's doing well. And I know there was some concern about pitching and relief pitching. Could they sustain what they did last year? But early on, the returns are very promising, and you've got this young core that doesn't appear to be afraid of the big moments. And as any Orioles fan and prospect watcher would know, there's more on the way. There's more talent on the way. All right.
Agreed.
Up next, Indians prospect Daniel Espino, close to being labeled injury plagued. I don't know if you saw the news. I'm sure you did.
I'm familiar with Daniel Espino.
No, I know you are, but I wasn't sure if you heard the very latest news, Jeremy. I know you. That's why I brought this up, but I just wanted to make sure that you actually heard like the latest news.
So here's what happened with Daniel. And before I say, pump the brakes.
Okay.
Here's what happened with Daniel. Daniel hurt his knee, missed some time, changed his delivery, put some stress on his shoulder, and then this is what you have. So he needs to regroup and get himself together all the way across the board, and he'll be fine. Probably puts himself in the bullpen now. Right, this is probably where he's going to end up for limited wear and tear on his body. But if he does that, it might be 117 miles an hour on these guns. So I think he's going to go in the bullpen. I think it's just a role change. I don't think he's injury plagued at all.
And the latest news, which I'm seeing right now, is he underwent right shoulder surgery, poised to miss the next 12 to 14 months.
Yeah, and that's after missing the last 12 to 14, right?
Yeah, he hadn't pitched since April of 2022. Wow.
Yeah, so he'll miss 2.5 years before he's on the mound again. That's a long time. It's going to take him some time to work his way back. The best way to do it is in the bullpen, short stints, and try to get him to the big leagues, and that might help his body. But I don't think he's injury plagued. I think it's just a role change.
Okay, or bad luck at this point. Well, maybe not.
I think he put stress on his arm from what happened with his knee.
Okay,
that's what happens. You change your delivery, and they're connected, right? So I think it was his left knee. Right, and his right shoulder. So I mean, that's the land spot, and this has to change. And yeah, that's how that works.
All right, final one today. Home run celebrations in the dugouts with the hats and the helmets, and this is good for baseball. Pump the brakes or just ride right through.
Well,
I'm pumping the brakes, Jeremy. I'm tired of it. Okay, I'm tired of it. Like after a while, beginning it was cute and it was fun, but now like. I'm a little tired of it.
You know what? It was annoying from the beginning. Okay. But it's one of those things that you just let the guys, you don't say anything about because these guys got to have a chance to make the game their own. If they're doing it in the dugout, like one of the ones that I always thought was the best was the Astros might have been 17 when they were staring at those faces at the after the home run, they all just look at the camera. I thought that was actually kind of funny.
What about the Boston Red Sox and the shopping cart or the?
Some of these are creative and they get to do. There's that. There's the one where I want to say somebody's got a cowboy hat or a sombrero somewhere. I don't know. The point is, some of these things are creative, okay, but they're all annoying. They're all ridiculous. And it gets to a point where you've got, Randy Arozarena the other day, not in the dugout, like he hits the home run and he stops behind after third base and, he does that to the dugout and then he runs and he does that outside his dugout because that's his move. We're just getting to a place where I agree, pump the brakes because it's overly annoying with how it's devolved. That said, I'd rather have them do it in the dugout and make the game their own and have it do that way because it's not the same game as it was,
True.
20 years ago, 30 years ago, 15 years ago. But
when a high five, that was the big,
the high five and the pound and the bash and there's only so many different ways you can reinvent this thing. You know what I mean? And people forget, McGuire and Sosa, they used to stutter step around the bases when they hit home runs. They forget, Ken Griffey Jr., first guy to wear a hat backwards really on the field. And everybody's like, oh, what are you doing? You can't do that. And it was also reserved for Junior, right? So these guys get to, make the game their own. I don't mind the dugout stuff. Again, annoying as you can, it's really annoying. But as far as the I'm okay with it.
Here's what I will never get tired of. You can put me on a hill going down with no brakes. Here's what I will never get tired of, Jared. Guy hits his first major league home run, gets into the dugout, and gets the silent treatment. I will never tire of that.
I think that's pretty good.
I love it because of.
Does that still happen?
I think it does.
Or are we too touchy-feely today?
I don't know. I just love it because, some guys, some rookies who may have a little flair, and other ones just, but a lot of them, they know their place. So they're just like, I'm just going to sit down and, have a drink. But anyway. All right. That's another episode of Pump the Brakes, our second Pump the Brakes segment. If you like it, great. If you don't, let us know. And all right, book sales. Pre-sales are underway. I think this is day 2. Are you getting like a printed readout of the thousands to hundreds of thousands of books that are?
Yeah, I
are you going to pack all those up yourself and bring them to the post office?
I
got to sign them, don't you?
I got to sign them and inscribe them. And I will say this, there's a lot of them. And I'm very grateful and thankful for that. There's a lot more than I probably thought I was going to get. I will say this to you as a whole. The accomplishment for me, if there was one, was just writing the book. Somebody wanting to buy it and read it, man, that's pretty humbling for me. It's not something that I even considered was making money on this thing or selling books. It was more about, hey, man, I'm gonna write this out and see if it helps somebody. That was really it. And then all of a sudden there's this interest. And so I'm really gratified and thankful that people want to hear what I have to say. I've tried to tell a couple people, this isn't the life story in baseball. This is a beginner, a 1+1 guide to what scouts are thinking,
like
what they do, what they go about.
Right?
Yeah. No, it's not so much like the manual. It's more of a understand what these guys are looking at. This is what they're thinking. This is what they're doing. Try to apply that to your player. Understand where he fits. Give yourself some perspective on the process. That's really what it is. And for that purpose, I'm very grateful. I'm happy to have written it. The next one will be a actual how-to manual, right? There's going to be that one, and then there's some stuff about the things we've done with the series, and then another one down the line that's probably going to take a minute. We'll have a chapter in there. We'll have the P15 will have a chapter in there. How I grew up in the game. We'll have some stuff in there. It's going to be a more life in baseball and evolution and some of the personal stuff that's happened along the way at the same time. This book, however, the fact that people want to read it, I'm very thankful. I'm very grateful. I'm looking forward to it going live on Amazon. There's still sales coming in, pretty quick. I get the notifications now. Wasn't getting them at first, and then finally the guys were like, "You have to get this because we're tired of looking at it." So I was getting ding, 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 ding. So I got them in a file, and so I'm going to sign these things and get them out. And again, I'm very thankful with people that did that because the support is great. The accomplishment was right in the book. You guys wanting to read it, or people that want to read it is humbling.
Wow, this is almost like a Harry Potter series.
I don't know if I'd call myself J.K. Rowling, but I'm very happy that some of the experience
we'll
I've had.
We'll have the second book and then the third book, and then option out the movie rights, and
we'll do the movie. I mean, come on now, who's going to play me but me? We'll do the movie.
I can tell you exactly who could do it.
Who's going to do it?
Dwayne Johnson.
Okay, I'll do it myself. I got me. Let Dwayne do Dwayne. Okay, I'll do me. You got your part too. You can act out yourself. You can do it.
I don't know who would be me. I don't want to think about it.
We got to put Reggie in there somewhere.
How about
Reggie will play Reggie.
How about Dwayne Johnson and Leonardo DiCaprio?
All right, I can get with that. I can step back and let them do it. Yeah, you guys want to do that? That's great. So,
all right, enough with this daydreaming, everybody. That is a really far-fetched, out of this world, away from reality, extra bases. For Jeremy, I'm Jason. That's going to do it again for this podcast. We appreciate you guys listening as always. Until next time, thanks for listening.